Welcome back, you guys, to another episode of the Period Recovery Podcast. And today I have the most amazing woman here with me. Actually, I have to say all the women that I get to cross paths with are quite amazing. So another amazing woman. And today I have on the show is Sarah. Sarah, who is also a registered dietitian and a former D1 swimmer. And she is going to go through the whole story today, start to finish. But what stands out to me is that she got her period back, like literally the day after she committed to working together. And that's pretty magical. That's what happens when you trust yourself, of knowing, like, I don't want to go at this alone anymore. I don't want to stress. I don't want to guess. Like, that layer of anxiety is removed when you can hold that and give that to somebody else. Not the anxiety per se, but like, what do I need? How much food do I need? How much rest do I need? Like, what's missing for me? So anyway, Sarah and I chat, and she shares how she's wondering where her next period is during this episode. And literally the day after, she got another period and already have had 2 periods in 2026. But Sarah also shared, she's like, I honestly, what really attracted me to working together is that I just wanted to know what was wrong, like what I was missing. But I was missing a whole lot more than I thought. And she's like, I thought my life, I was living it. It was easy. I was free. I was going with the flow. She's like, until we started going deeper and talking more about the things I was still doing, she's like, I didn't even realize that I wasn't living to my full potential. So sometimes it just takes a reflection and talking through it. So anyways, let's dive in. Let's talk to Sarah and hear her amazing, amazing story. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited you're here. I was just telling Sarah before we got on the podcast is that me recording with clients of mine or past clients or current or whatever is kind of a self-fulfilling thing for myself because I just genuinely love you guys so much. And it's just a way that we get to catch up, and also you get to spread more hope into the world. So I'm so excited you're here.
Yeah.
All right. So, Sarah, where should we start? Where shall we start? Let's start with like how I'm going to just jump into it before we even talk about how you got your period back and what you did, the good, the bad, the ugly, the fun. But how did you lose that darn thing in the first place? Give us a little background of where it all started.
Yeah, so this is like an interesting story because I technically don't even really know when I technically lost it because I never really kind of had it to begin with. So I'm currently a registered dietitian, but about 10 years ago, yeah, about 10 years ago I was like 17. And I was a competitive swimmer growing up, so I started swimming competitively when I was 8, and by the time I was 10 I was like swimming all year. By the time I was 13 I was, like, going to nationals, like, a lot of, like, 5, 6 days a week of practice, like, 2 hours a day. And so by the time I was 17, I hadn't had, like, a period at all. And I was always, like, pretty lean. Like, I would say by the time I turned about, like, 12 or 13, I was just, like, swimming a lot. I was pretty lean. Um, I was never, like, under eating. Like, my relationship with food was always fine. My relationship with my body was always fine. So 17, no period. The doctor's like, okay, well, you're really active, and you're pretty lean. You don't have a lot of body fat
So
on
it's
you.
fine.
Right. And they're like, and you're also really stressed. And I was like very just a high stress person, like in school and swimming, like putting a lot of pressure on myself. They're like, oh, it's pretty normal, but like, whatever. We'll just like put you on birth control. And I was like, okay, cool. At the time being like, I
Yeah.
guess that's what they're telling me to do. They even said like it might be PCOS, which I hear gets misdiagnosed a lot there. So they had me do the ultrasound to like look for the cysts on my ovaries, which I didn't have, but they're like, well, you could still have PCOS without actually having any cysts. It's just, your hormones are a little bit wacky, but whatever. So starting, yeah, age 17, which was about 10 years ago, I started taking birth control. And I was on it for, long story short, I was on it for 10 years. But in the background of that, right, I did my senior year of high school and then I went to college. I swam D1 in college, and that was just like even more training. And at that point,
Mm.
during those 4 years, I would say I was exercising more than I ever had in my life, right? And definitely probably not eating enough, and a lot of it was not intentional. It was just, like, trying to adjust to, like, well, now we have practice twice a day, so, like, when do I eat lunch if we have practice at 2? Like, I can't have a huge lunch before practice, and then all of a sudden you're eating, like, 2 bigger meals per day and, like, not 3, and I was just definitely probably not eating enough. Um, and again, no way to know what's truly going on because I was on birth control, so, you see, okay, I'm just, like, having a period every month per se, although we know that that's not it's just like a withdrawal
Yeah.
bleed. It's not really, your body doing what it's supposed to do. So I graduated in 2020, stopped swimming, and I was still on birth control. And at that point, after 2020, for about, I would say at least 3 years, my relationship with food was just really not good. I lost a lot of weight that I shouldn't have even lost in the first place because I
Mm.
was like, well, I'm not swimming anymore. Like I really don't need to eat. Great. Um, yeah. So during that time, again, still on birth control, but I was definitely at that point I was underweight, not eating enough. And then just over a year ago, so it was like September of 2024, my brain, it's 2026 now. Also
Mhm.
January 1st, way to start a new year
Yes.
of like being
Happy
here
New
on the
Year.
podcast, which
Yeah.
is really, really exciting for me. But yes, I have to do math. It was not September 2025, it was September of 2024. I had gotten to a place where I'd done a lot of work and my relationship with food was better than it had been since like before college, I would say. And I was like, you know what? I don't need to be on birth control anymore. Like, there's no purpose for me to be on it right now. And I should probably just come off and see
Mm.
if I'm just getting my period naturally because that's never happened before. And I was like 26 at the time. And I was like, I should probably just see if my body's doing what it's supposed to do. I had gained some of the weight back and all those things. So I talked to my OBGYN. I was like, I don't need to be on this. She was like, okay. So I came off and about a year goes by and nothing, like no period, nothing. I was like, okay, I guess. And me being a dietitian, I've been a dietitian for 3 years. I was kind of like, okay, like I think I know what needs to happen. I need to, and
Right.
somewhere within that year, I think I found you on Instagram, and I was like, oh, yeah, like this makes sense. Like this is kind of what I need to do. I need to be eating more carbs, eating more fat, gain a little bit of weight, like let my body know that it's safe, that I'm not going to be spending hours and hours and hours in the pool, just like relentless physical activity, right? So yeah, that was around August. I was coming up August of 2025, coming up being a year off birth control with no period. And I was like, this is not great. I know this is not good for my health and all the
Mm.
things that you were posting. I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just take the leap and reach out to Cynthia. I was kind of, especially in 2025, I was very much trying to like do things outside my comfort zone. It was just something that I was noticing this pattern of like when I do things that are a little bit scary, like the payoff is like better than I was like, you know what, I think this would be really good for me in a lot of ways. So I reached out to you in like August and I was like, yeah, like I don't, it's something I'm kind of thinking about. And you're like, I know a lot of people say they want to do it and you're waiting for the right time, but there is no right time to do it. Right. And I was like, you know
Mhm.
what? Let me just do it. And so in August, I remember I reached out to you. We had our like interest 15, 30-minute call that you do. And I was like, let me just do it. And at that point, like I think 2 days after that, I went to the OBGYN and I told her, I was like, it's coming up on a year that I stopped taking the pill and still nothing. And she was like, well, I think you should just go back on birth control. And I was like,
Grr.
no, like I
Yeah.
know that not having a period naturally is just it's not good for your heart health, right? Like estrogen, like you need that estrogen to, for so many reasons. Like when I learned, and I think it was through you that like not having a healthy regular period puts you at increased risk of cardiovascular disease. I was like, that's crazy because estrogen is so protective, right? I was like, these are all the things I thought I was trying to avoid by like eating, less like
Yeah. Trying to be
fat and
healthy.
all the right, trying to be healthy, which now I know is like, for so many reasons it's not. Anyway, and I said to her, I was like, give me like 3 months. Like I'm gonna join this program with a dietitian and I think I can put the work in and really like gain some weight and do all the things. And she was like, okay, try it. So 2 days later I reached out to you and I was like, I'm gonna do it. I put the payment down and you said, okay, you'll have your first session in like a week and a half or so, like just based on the timing of things. I was like, okay, cool. A week after I put that payment down, before I had even officially, like, had a session with the group was when I got my period, and I was like
Ah!
and I know you said that happens a lot, but I was just in, like, shock because I was like I had already been doing a lot of the things on my own, I guess, and I just kind of had that mental switch where I, like, committed
Mm.
by, like, putting that payment down, and
Yeah.
then it happened, but I know you said that happens a lot. A lot of women sign up and then kind of
Yeah.
get their period back, but long story, yes, that was the first time ever in my life that, like, I had a period not being on birth control at age
Yeah.
27. So it was just kind of crazy, and then we can get into the rest of it after that, but to
Yeah,
answer your
yes.
question, yeah.
Yeah, so I have so many I wrote down a bunch of things that I
I
wanna
saw
chat
you
with you
writing.
about. Yes, yes, and I just wanna say, just to talk about your last statement that you made, I can't tell you I didn't do, like, the math on it of how many women end up getting their period back before they actually, like, come into the group. And one, that is because they are doing some of the work, like you were eating more, you were
Yeah.
resting more, right? But also, I almost look at it as you are creating safety for your
Mhm.
body
Yep.
by making a commitment to yourself, by trusting yourself that that is the next step you need to validate all the years of undoing of how we feel about our body and food and exercise and all the things. So I like to say that's the first, like, I always when I meet with uh new clients, I'm always like, just make sure this feels like the next best step forward for you. And if it feels like the next best step forward, then go for it because
Yep.
that's creating trust and safety in your
Mhm.
body. You're going to do less back and forth of like, oh my god, is this eating it? Am I eating enough? Am I not eating enough? Because
Yep.
I can't tell you how many women are like, I'm eating and I'm resting, but I still don't have a period back, and there's a big piece missing. It's it's the safety that your body needs safety from food and from rest, but it also needs nervous system safety and trusting yourself. And so you should be so damn proud of yourself, Sarah, for trusting yourself that that is the next step, and your body felt it.
Yeah.
So, and for those out there that are like, okay, well, she got her period back. Like, why did she even continue to join the program?
Right. Of course, it
And
was I was just the beginning, like, I know I have a lot of work to do moving
yeah.
forward, right?
So it's more than just the period. And
Yeah.
Sarah, when you joined the program, yes, I know you wanted your period back, but what else were you hoping? What else were some of your goals?
Yeah, I mean, for me, again, it was, like, kind of just finding out, like, the health risks of, like, not having a period, like, bone health, long-term heart health. I was like, these are like, the reason that I try like, I've always kind of been a little bit, like, really careful about my like, trying to limit added sugar and, like, I don't really eat a lot of fast food, like, I'm a dietitian and all those things, like, I'm interested
Mhm.
in eating healthy, but I was like, I wanna be healthy and live for a long time, and I thought I was doing, the right thing, which obviously I got to a point where I also recognized that, like, under eating at the point that I was also not healthy, but I didn't realize the, like, direct health implications of
Mhm.
just, like, not having a regular healthy period. So I was like, I want to be actually healthy. Like, I want my
Yeah.
estrogen levels to be high enough to protect my heart health and to, like, not develop cardiovascular disease,
Right.
right? And to protect my bone health and, like, all these things that we know that estrogen actually does for you that, like, doctors don't even talk about. They don't tell you about it. Like, it frustrates me because, like, women don't know enough
Right.
about, like, how important it is to have, like, a regular healthy cycle. Like, it's such an important
Mhm.
sign of health. So that was a huge one for
Yes.
me. I know for a lot of women, it's like you want to be able to have kids, right? The thought of, like, not being able to have kids one day is really scary if they know, like, hey, like, I'm not having my period.
Mhm.
That's something for me, like, later down the line, I would love. It's not something on my mind right now. Like, I don't
Tomorrow.
know if
Yeah.
that'll happen for me, but and also just like knowing that, like, there's a part of my life that I want to get to and, like, a version of myself that I want that I haven't met yet who's, like, more
Mhm.
relaxed around food and exercise and, like, just being able to, like, not have so much, like, rigidity around those things, and I
Yeah.
know that by being able to make the changes I need to make to, like, get my period back would also be, like, changes that would just kind of, like, certainly be beneficial in my everyday life of, like, I can just be
Yeah.
more free around food and exercise and, like, actually just, like, eat a lot more carbs than I was eating before because we know that carbs are, like, they're so good for you. Like, they're not even people, like,
Yes.
say they're like the devil, but they're not, you know? It was just I wanna be able to get a little bit more of my life back and really, like,
Yeah.
relax a little bit more. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. And I think of it like as a layer. Like we all want our periods back. Do we just want a period and just like that's it? Do we still want to obsess over food and over exercise and over be rigid and all those things? No, we don't want that. So just like you said, making those steps towards getting your period back, actually peel back layers of yourself, the rigidity, the type A. I mean, yeah, we're always going to have a little type A in us. I
Yeah.
mean, I still do. Um, but It's how we're using it now, but we're peeling back this layer so we can get more connected to the woman that we're put on this earth to be, because we were
Mhm.
not put on this earth to be like, oh my gosh, it is 8 o'clock and I'm going to sleep in a half hour and I just had, this and this to eat. And, just constantly living by a timetable of numbers of calories, the time on the clock, all the things, right? And I could go on and on about how we're in our head. So, speaking of kind of being in our head, there was a point in your life, Sarah, that you were just even keel, relax around food, ate when you were hungry, probably stopped when you were full. And then somewhere along the line, there kind of got a little bit distorted or disordered or whatever you want to call it. Where do you remember the time or how that happened for you?
I think it was I really think it was mostly during college. Like, in high school, relationship with food was great. Like, I still was trying to fuel like an athlete most of the time. Like, was aware of, like, added sugar, like eating healthy, but I was certainly eating like enough food. And I think a lot of it stemmed from like, and this is very common for like someone who was like an athlete at a pretty high level to let then like going into a part of your life where like that's not like part of who you are anymore per se. Like, in high school, swimming, like, it was my thing. Like, I was good
Yeah.
at it and I loved it and it made me feel really good. And like the whole like the lifestyle of like go to practice every day, work your butt off. Like, they give you a practice. It's hard, right? But you kind of learn your brain, it changes the way your brain perceives like discipline, I think. And it's like you show up to practice, you have a really hard practice that you're working through, but your brain starts to realize this loop of like pain, especially when it comes to sports like swimming and like running, where it's just like repeated like thresholds of
Mhm.
like a lot of like pain, right? It's just like it's like, all right, for the next 30 minutes, you're going to be in a lot of pain and you're just going to do repeats for 30 minutes with barely any rest in between, right? Like, that is something that's is very hard, and it trains your brain a certain way to be like hard work and pain and discipline, like you will get the result you want. So like, this is good,
Mhm.
right? Like, you'll do like a minute, you push off the wall, you swim back for a minute, painful, you take a few seconds rest, you do it again. You do it again. You do it again. Your brain is like, I want to stop. I want to stop, but you don't, right? And that's how you become like a really good athlete, right? You just have to put the work in, you have to do the discipline. It's going to be really painful, but you are putting yourself through the pain with the idea of getting something out of it, right? You know that this is my lifestyle, this is how I train, this is how I work out because I want to be the best athlete I can be. And your brain gets very used to this like pain over and over again kind of thing. And I think in college, I started to lose a little bit of that just because I wasn't like enjoying swimming as much as I was, but it was still a really tough sport. And then really trying to navigate, how do I eat enough to be training at this level, which I just wasn't doing. Um, and then post swimming, it was kind of just as like, okay, I'm not swimming anymore. Um, and my brain was just looking for something else, I think, to like latch onto of like, well, I'm really, really good at putting myself through a lot of pain and getting something out of it and feeling like I'm really good at like, this is painful. Oh, do it again. Your brain is like, that was hard. That was painful. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Like this like loop of like discipline and all these things. And I was like, really kind of enjoyed being like the disciplined one in a lot of areas in
Yeah.
life, for better or for worse, right? That's not always a good thing. And I think I latched onto food as a way to be like, oh, like you feel like withholding food and, kind of gives my brain that similar feeling of like going to a practice and working really hard for like 2 hours and like that whole kind of loop of like the way that your
Yeah.
brain receive like the reward system almost of like under eating and like controlling food felt very much like a painful process to like get you to that reward of like, oh, I'm good at something, even though it's painful, I'm good at
Yeah.
something. And that was kind of just being like very overly restrictive with like food instead of being really good at getting through a hard swim practice. It was just like this other thing that my brain was
One
trying
thing
to do.
switched for the other.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then,
and
yeah,
it's a familiar place though, too,
yeah, exactly.
that
Hmm.
pain cave is a very familiar
Right.
place.
Right. And my brain was
And
really just trying to kind of hold on to something, especially after swimming. So
yeah.
I think the worst of it was probably in terms of the food was after I graduated. 'Cause it was also COVID, it was 2020, the world was kinda
Mhm.
crazy, like, I was just sitting at home, and I was like, "Well, what is something that I can kind of do?" But I think also it was during college, I was swimming so much that my nervous system just did not understand that, I never felt safe. I think my nervous system
Mm.
never felt safe. I was just wake up, have a snack, jump in this freezing cold pool, work out for 2 hours, go eat breakfast, come back and work out for another 2.5 hours. Like my
Mm.
nervous system was never safe enough, I think. Again, I was on birth control. I was in college, so I wouldn't have
Yeah.
known. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
it just
And
came down to, changing that, my nervous system being like, "Hey, we have enough energy to actually, like, turn on your reproductive, systems,"
yeah.
because it wasn't I don't think it was happening before.
Yeah, and get your body feeling safe again. And,
Yeah.
we could say if you were eating enough, would that have been different? I mean, probably, yeah, but like hindsight is
I don't know.
2020, and you'll
Yeah.
hear me say you only know what you know when you know it.
Yep.
Cause and not to mention, I mean, Sarah, you were going to school to be a freaking dietitian. And I mean, I know we're a little bit apart in terms of when we graduated, but I know for me, my disordered eating, like, and I don't know if I was super, I wasn't that disordered at the time, but college did not make me go the other way. It amplified the disordered eating of being healthy. And,
Mhm.
we did calculations like your BEE and your REE. And if you're this active, you should have this many calories. If you're this tall, you should have this many calories. Is very body composition related. I'm not sure if
Mhm.
that's how it was for you or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that did make things easier for
Yeah.
us.
Yep. And I never
But
really got into the count, like, I never counted calories or anything. It was
mhm,
more just like a perceived, like, "Oh, I'm really good at this thing. I was really good at this, like, swimming
mm,
thing," which was, like, putting myself through discipline and pain, so now I can kind of do it with food, but not per se counting numbers, just like,
mm,
"Oh, like, I'm still hungry? Okay, good. That means, like,
yeah.
I can just like that loop of, like, well, that was kinda painful. Oh, cool. Okay, do it again. You're doing something
Yeah,
right,"
this is
kinda thing.
familiar. I've done this
Right,
before. I've had
right.
success.
Yes, and
Yeah,
of course,
and
it serves a purpose at the time, like, for your brain. It's giving you a place of, like, perceived
yeah. We
comfort.
want like, the brain likes familiar. And
Mhm.
so if we can get familiar, that produces comfort, but it's kinda like fake. Well, no, I don't wanna say it's fake comfort. It's not
Yeah.
real safety, but it's comforting,
Yeah.
that familiarity. So I wanna know for you, Sarah, so let's okay, so now we've crossed the bridge of period recovery. I might have some old questions as well,
Mhm.
but, now we've crossed the bridge of period recovery. So you've done these hard things, like, you've pushed yourself to the max. You have been super disciplined. Now, when it came to period recovery and eating more and resting more, what do you think was harder about that than, I mean, you've pushed yourself before. What was the difference for you?
Yeah. Um, that was it for me. I think it would be a sense of, like, again, really holding on to this identity of, like, being a very disciplined person when it comes, like, I can
Mhm,
wake up at 5:30 in the morning and go to the gym before work and like whatever, like that gave me a sense of like identity of like, well, I'm just disciplined.
mhm,
That's what I do. And I do fitness is still a really important part of my life and I want it to be forever. It was a very important part of my life for a very long time. Like swimming is the sport that made me into the person who I am. And I do love like a really good workout now and I can appreciate that, right? So I think it was this fear of like, well, if I just like take a step back from like doing intense workouts, like am I ever going to be able to get to that level again of like
mhm,
really pushing myself to my limit in a workout because that's what I did, for so long and I want to be able to do that again, right? To be that person who can just work
yeah,
out like crazy and like push myself physically because that's a cool thing to be able to do to like really test yourself not only physically but mentally to see like hey, like what can I do? Like as humans like we're put on this earth to like I think a lot of us like operate, I feel like especially for me like I'm operating below my like potential in a lot of ways, right? And it's like I know I'm
mhm,
capable of a lot, especially when it comes to just like working out. I know I can push my body pretty hard. So I think I was afraid that like, hey, if I really pursue this period recovery, which I knew I needed to do, it was also like I'm going to have to take a step back from intense workouts. And it's really hard once you shift your brain away from like once you get used to, oh, this workout feels hard, so I'm just gonna stop. Right. When it gets hard, I stop. Right. Like when you're an athlete, that's what you are trained to not do. When it gets hard and when it gets uncomfortable is when you are supposed to keep pushing. So
mhm,
now to know that like when it gets hard, I need to just like take a step back, it's going to be hard to switch my brain back to like if I'm in the middle of a workout and it gets hard and it gets uncomfortable to push through that because I've
mhm,
taken a significant amount of time now where I haven't been working out that way and
yeah,
it does rewire your brain a little bit and it's a hard thing to get back into. It's very easy to be mid workout and say, "Yeah, this is hard. Let me just stop now." So I think it was definitely a fear of like, am I going to be able to be that person who works out a
yeah.
lot? Um, And also the weight
Yeah.
gain was, knowing that like, okay, I'm probably gonna gain some weight, which was like scary per se. And in the beginning, like those first 2 months, because I got that first period with you, and then 30 days later, I got a second one. And I was like, this is great. My first month into the program, I'd had like two periods 30 days apart, and I was like, amazing. And I was starting to gain a little bit more weight. And at the beginning, a lot of people talk about the weight gain as being like so, 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 so hard. But I kind of was having a lot more days where I was looking in the mirror and I was like, wait, I actually look kind of good. Like I feel kind of good for the first time in a long time. Like I have a little bit more weight on my body and I feel like I look good. Um, so that was kind of in the beginning, I was like, this is great. And now it's been about 3 months since I had my second period, and I am still waiting for the third one, which I know in your program you say you really want to see like three good periods like every month
Yeah.
before you kind of reintroduce like intense exercise and everything. Um, so I'm kind of in this place now where I've like learned what I have to do, but I'm also like, this is a little frustrating because for the last like 3 months, I haven't really been exercising much and I've been eating a lot more than I ever have. And now I'm in a place where I'm starting to see some of the weight gain that I don't love. And for the
Um,
first time in my life, I'm kind of like sometimes looking at pictures of myself or like looking at myself and like, I don't, I don't love that. And it's this place where I've heard some other women from your program on their podcast say, like, when you think you've let go enough, like, let go just a little bit more. Like, I was listening to I think, one of your other clients on the podcast, and that's what she said, and I said, "I
yeah.
think I'm in this place where I feel like I've let go enough." I'm like, "Come on," like, I've stepped back from the exercise, and I'm eating more, and I'm gaining weight to a point where I'm starting to feel uncomfortable, and I'm still waiting for this 3rd period, like, after, like, 3
Mm,
months, and it's like, okay, like, my body just doesn't feel safe enough yet because I'm realizing I think I did that much damage to my body all
yeah.
these years of like not eating enough that it's going to take a lot for my body to know that it's safe. So I think,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's kind of
And
where
I
I'm at right now.
appreciate you, Sarah, so much sharing because period recovery is anything but like unicorns and butterflies.
Hmm.
And, I think sometimes we have this preconceived notion is like, and I'm not saying you had this, but we get two periods, then it's like, okay, well, we're good. Or maybe three periods. Okay, we're good. But can we look at this, you and everyone out there that may have gotten one or two periods, is what is our body asking for right now? Is it asking us, like you said, to let go? Like if you feel like you've let go, can you let go a little bit more? Is there an opportunity to say, okay, I don't have to like cut out more exercise. I don't have to like eat like a lot more food, but is that something else that's missing? Am I feeling unsafe related to now fearing the weight gain because the weight gain wasn't a fear before? And, in a perfect world, I would love to work with all of my clients for at least a minimum of 6 months because sometimes, I don't know if you see my kitty cat coming in. Um, Sometimes we get in this place where, our periods, maybe our third period doesn't come, our second period doesn't come. And we know that the work is more than just the period. So, what
Yeah.
else is our body asking for? And so I really, really appreciate you sharing that with me, Sarah. And there's a couple other points I wanted to touch upon. So, getting your period back, that fear of how I was kind of relating the swimming, like pushing through that fear. Was I don't want to say it was easy. It's not easy to push through that threshold, but a part of you where, doing period recovery, there's a little bit, I mean, yeah, we can still push, but there's emotion attached to that, right? And
Hmm.
I'm not saying there isn't emotion attached to winning a race and so forth. There is. But like there's deeply rooted things going on there.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing from you is that there was a party that felt you might lose the woman, the only woman you knew,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And now you still might be in a place of like, am I ever going to be able to push that hard again? And I like to say if that's something you wanna do, heck yeah. Because girlfriend, you're gonna be more fueled than ever. You're
Exactly.
gonna be more
Yeah.
rested than ever. Your
Yep.
nutrition is gonna be now dialed in because you know what happens when you don't,
Yep.
right? And so absolutely, and that pushing, that hardness, might feel easier. It may not feel as hard.
Yeah.
And I can just vouch for that myself. No, I wasn't a D1 athlete, but I used to push myself to the max,
Hmm.
like the pain cave.
Yep.
And same thing, discipline. Like I can do hard shit.
Mhm.
But let me tell you, when it came to gaining weight and getting my period back, wondering if I'd ever become a mom, well, that that was the hard stuff.
Yeah.
And so now, flash forward going through all that, when I push myself, it doesn't feel as hard. It doesn't nearly feel as hard. But do I ever push myself to the max where I feel like I'm completely stepping outside of my comfort zone? I don't, but I don't know if that's just a preference thing.
Yeah.
To me, I think it is. But I do one day want to do something that is outside of my comfort zone, um, and be fueled, maybe like an ultra race or something like that. I don't know. But you can have whatever it is that you want to have, and you get to have it now because you're better fueled.
Yeah.
But just kind of making the connection of the dots of like our fears, because we're all type A driven, like high achieving, bad ass women. And then when it comes to period recovery, it's like, oh, I'm doing my best. I'm trying my hardest. And like, what's going on here? Well, there's a lot more attached to it. There's a lot more emotion. There's
Mhm.
identity. There's feelings. There's unknown,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Definitely in a place in my life where there's, like, a lot unknown, like, what's my life gonna look like in, like, 4 months in terms of, like, period recovery? What's my body gonna look like? What's my exercise gonna look like? This unknown of, like, how long, like, until I can go back to exercising like that, right? Of, like,
Hmm.
career-wise, like, where am I gonna be living, a year from now? Like, I'm in this weird place in my life where, like, identity-wise, like, there's just so many things that I think are kind of poised to, like, change, which, like, change, I think a lot of people struggle with change, and I do
Yeah.
for sure. But also, like, ever since, kind of August when I reached out to you and just, like, kind of really try and get serious about doing this because I know it's what I need to do for my health and all those things. um, my life has gotten bigger per se, like,
Hmm.
and more beautiful, and you feel like you can connect with people a little bit better, and just, like, really noticing the things in your life that, like, yeah, if I was, like, super, um, like, restrictive around food and exercise and all these things like I was before, you don't always feel, like, the depth of those emotions. Like, I've noticed a lot more highs and lows, like, almost like you feel the
Yeah.
lows more deeply and you feel joy that much more deeply. And I also think, I was in a place before I did this where I was like, "No, like, life is good, like, life is great." Like, I would be reflecting, like, journaling, whatever, about certain things. It's something I've done for years, and I would be, like, crying about, like, how beautiful my life was. Like, I've always been
Mm.
very, like, reflective and, like, grateful. I would be like, "I'm so grateful. I have the best family and friends on the planet." And I would hear other people talk about period recovery, and they would be like, your life gets so much better when you pursue period recovery. And I was kind of in this place where I was like, but my life is like fantastic. Like, I was very, very, very
Yeah.
grateful for where I was at in life already. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I have the best people in my life, and I'm not one who takes that for granted. I was like, my life is so beautiful. Like, I would journal things and just be like in disbelief of, like, how blessed I was in
Yeah.
life. And I was like, I don't need, like, what do people mean when they say your life gets even better? And it just does. If you think, for anyone who's listening, who's maybe, because this used to be me and I wish somebody had kind of said
Okay.
this to me. If you're like, "No, like, I'm fine, like, I don't really need to do this whole period recovery thing, like, my BMI is normal, I'm not underweight, I don't have an eating disorder, like, you're like, I'm fine, I'm grateful for life, I experience joy, I connect with other people, I go out to eat with my friends." Like, I was already doing all of that. I
Yeah.
wasn't in this place where I was like, "Well, I would love to be able to go out to eat and not freak out about it." No, like, I was doing that fine. I was going out for ice cream, I was doing all the things. Um, and it would have been easy for me to say, okay, like, I don't need to do period recovery because that's for people
Mm.
who aren't able to do all of those things. Right? They've, like, their life only revolves around food and exercise and nothing else. That's not where I was in life. I was in, like, a really good spot when I joined your program, and I still recognized that I was like, I need to still make a change. And things have gotten, that much more beautiful. I think you have Katie on some of your body image calls, right? And she had said
Mhm.
something about, like, you can't have, like, I still keep feeling like there's this version of myself who I, like, haven't met yet, who's, like, like, just enjoying life that much more and, like, doing things
Yeah.
career-wise and, like, social-wise. And she's like, "You can't meet that version of yourself in, like, your old body. Like, it just doesn't work that way." Um, and I just kinda have to accept that, like, if I really wanna, like, step into this next part of my life and continue to connect more deeply with, like, just everyone,
Yeah.
friends, family, whatever. I know a lot of women who say, like, romantic, like, partners even will notice a change in them when they kind of pursue this journey of, like, it takes some of the weight off of their shoulders. If they notice something, you're very kind of controlling around your food and your exercise, but maybe they don't know how to bring it up. And then once they kind of pursue this program, they feel like that connection is stronger and all those things. So, but yeah, that stuck with me when Katie was like, "You can't have, you know, your new life in like your old body. Those two
Yeah.
things have to change." So,
Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that, Sarah, because that does speak to a lot of the women out there that are like, "Life is good." Like, I don't
yeah,
like Cynthia talks about all this stuff of like, if she sees on my story, like people see on my stories, like, "Oh, I had pizza for the first time in,
right,
10 years, or I went out, I'm able to go out to eat without looking at the menu or whatever." Like, yeah, it doesn't losing your period doesn't always come along with this like very controlling, like over obsessively relationship with food and exercise. So I appreciate you sharing that and calling that out. But for you, Katie, like when Sarah, you just said Katie. Oh
it's
my gosh,
okay.
it's Katie. Um, and I want to touch on Katie's quote as well. But
Yeah,
for you, Sarah, when did it kind of when were you kinda like, "Huh, like, yeah, life was good, but damn, now it's better." Like, what were some of those, like, tangible things? Could you share
yeah,
some of those?
yeah. It was interesting. Like, I think it was, like, around October, especially, like, November for some reason. I've done this thing, like, I think I started doing it maybe this year where, like, every season, like, spring, summer, fall, I'll make, like, a photo album on my phone of, like, some of the
Mm,
best moments, like, from that season. And then so I was doing it for fall, right, which is, like, shortly after I joined, your program. And then specifically in November, I don't know what it was about November, but, like, things just kind of started, like, and I've also recently just been trying to be more aware of, like, little, like, almost like signs from the universe of, like, hey, like, the universe showing me that, like, life can get better than
mm,
you think it will. Like, I've been in this spot where I'm like, my life is good, but I also, like anyone, I worry about the future of, like, what's my life gonna look like later
all the
on, like, all
things.
these things, right? Um and just something about I literally had a photo album on my phone from November of, like, these things that just kind of happened that were, like, so beautiful, and I notice a lot of beauty in, like, the little mundane things in life, like, a sunrise will, like, make me cry, like, that kind of thing, like, I've always been that
Me
kind of way.
too, me too.
But there was just something about, like, Thanksgiving, and then I got this new job in August right around when I joined your program, actually, and, like,
Mhm,
this camera crew show it's, like, a long story, but they showed up with, like, a camera, and they wanted to, like, mic me up and, like, interview me, and this was, like, I was like, "That okay," and then I, like, went to this Jonas Brothers concert with my friend, and I didn't even realize that, like, we had floor seats, and then, like, we had people over for Thanksgiving, and we just, like, played a fun little game, and I was, like, laughing so hard, like, I couldn't breathe, and then my family went to go see, Hamilton on Broadway, and it was just, like, these little moments that, like, aren't so little, and it was just, like, I was able to notice, like, the profound, like, beauty in all of them, and it really
mm,
just felt like the universe was just showing me, like, "Hey, like, life can continue to surprise you in ways that you can't even begin to imagine," right? We kind of sometimes think, like, "Oh, like, I know what my life is gonna look like, more or
mhm,
less," right? Like, I know what my life is gonna end up looking like in a year from now, but you can't even foresee, like, the little beautiful surprises because that's the whole point. You're not supposed to know what's coming. And they were all
yeah,
just these little beautiful things that I was like, I don't think, I'm sure maybe these things would have happened even if I hadn't been pursuing period recovery. They probably maybe would have, but it felt like the universe was kind of aligning in a little way of, like, I've really opened my life up and made my life a little bit bigger. And now all these kind of beautiful moments are just happening and continuing to happen. And it's also something should be said of, like, if you're looking for things, you notice them more often, right? Like, when you're looking for beautiful, positive things in your life, you notice them
yeah,
more, which is something I've been trying to do. But I don't think it's like, I think it goes pretty hand in hand with the fact that I was pretty
yeah,
much committed to period recovery at that point and just being like, my life is getting a little bit bigger and a little bit more beautiful. So that was really when I
yeah,
noticed the shift. And again, that was November. That was like, I got my period at the end of September when I or
Yeah.
August when I joined your program, and then again in September. And then October came and went and like nothing. So it's like, okay, I just need to rest a little bit more. I'll do all the things.
Mm.
So November, I was kind of still in the thick of it of like, am I going to get my period this month? I don't really know, but let me just keep resting more, eating a little bit more, just like enjoying life the best that I can. Um, and again, anyone who's listening who's like, no, like my life is already so beautiful. I'm already doing all the things.
Oh,
Trust me, that's kind of how I was too. Like
yeah.
before I did this, it gets better in ways that you can't begin to imagine it because you don't
Yeah.
know what's coming, and we're not,
Yeah.
none of us are supposed to know. That's the point.
No. Yeah, that's so beautiful, Sarah. And it just made me reflect of like how when I was in this particular place, I don't know, over a decade ago, and I thought, okay, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get my period back, or I'm never going to be able to become a mom. This past weekend or past week over school break with my boys, I was ice skating on a lake in the Adirondacks, Lake Placid area, which is absolutely known for its gorgeousness and winterness. And I'm like, I could have never, ever,
Yep.
in the thick of it, ever pictured that.
Hmm.
Never. And,
Yep.
I just, even after, gosh, what, like 15, 10, 15 years, whatever it's been, I am still so damn grateful. And so it's the gift that keeps on giving. So it's like you do the
Yeah.
hard work right now. And like, I wrote down a quote that you said, Sarah, you said usually the hard things, they're hard, but the payoff is usually better. Or you said something of the sort.
Yeah.
And so just being not even a half a year into this journey to connecting more deeply with yourself and deeply with others, you are already having the payoff dividends. The ROI has been huge for you already. And
Yeah.
that's
And
just in the
I
short
really
amount of
have.
time.
Exactly. I've had so many more of these, like, especially in like September, August, November. I was just having so many of these moments where I was like, it would stop me dead in my tracks sometimes, like whether it was just a sunrise or a sunset or a small moment or whatever. And I would just be like, is this my life right now? Like, really? Like, in a good way? Like, is this really happening? And it wasn't, these big, ginormous moments that people think of when you think of those types of things, because like I said, I'm the type of person where like, I literally have pictures on my phone here from November of like the sunset, like the pink clouds in the
Yeah.
sky, because that's the kind of stuff that like will bring me to tears sometimes, of just these little moments of like, and then this is, some slightly bigger things like this concert where I just like, my friend was like, I have extra tickets. Do you want to come? And I was like, sure. I didn't even ask where the seats were. And then we're like on the floor, like a few rows from the stage. And I was like,
Yes.
what? Like, it was just this moment of like, what?
Mm.
Um, so yeah, just having more of those
Yeah.
little moments where it was like, I, in a million years, never would have guessed that that was going to happen to me. Not that it's
Yeah.
not even a huge thing. I don't go to a lot of concerts, but it was just this night where I
Yeah.
was like,
But
what the
still,
heck? Like, that's
yeah.
crazy and beautiful in this way. And
Yeah.
again, to be able to say all that, to be able to have this conversation even of like, yes, like I've gained, a lot of the weight back that honestly, weight I never should have lost in the first place over the last like 5 years or whatever. But again, I'm in this place where I'm right around probably the most I ever weighed, like in high school when I was swimming, but difference being most of that weight was muscle. Now a lot of it is body. I probably have the most amount of body
Yeah.
fat I've ever had in my life, which is
Yeah.
different for me, right? And I'm again
Yeah.
still kind of waiting on this like third period
Yeah.
since September, right? So I know
Yeah.
that that means a little bit more rest, a little bit more,
Yeah.
more food, whatever is that my body needs. And that's a scary thought of like, okay, well, how much more weight will I need to gain,
Mm.
right? To be in a place where I don't love the way my body looks right now, but to be even able to be having this conversation and to be in this place of even being like
Mm.
semi okay with that is something that I wouldn't
Yeah.
have been able to do, a year ago,
Yeah.
um, just to be like, I know this is what I need to do. And it's not like super duper fantastic when we live in this world where everybody is trying to lose weight. Everyone's like low carb this, low carb that, like get
Yeah.
skinny for
Back to
summer,
the
all these
gym.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be able to just see that happening around me, which can be really, really hard and really, kind of triggering sometimes as someone who has been through that. You see other people doing it, and I
Mhm.
have to take a step back and be like, what they're doing and what they're eating like does not affect me. Like I have to take care of my own health, and that's a really hard thing to do sometimes, because the easy thing for me to do is to go back to it, to being
Mhm.
it's easy. The easy thing would to be get up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym and, do all of
Yeah.
those things. But for someone with a brain that's wired like mine, the hard thing is to not do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's so yeah, because I feel like, well, I'm not even doing anything difficult right now. And my brain hates that. My brain is screaming at me like, no, like do the discipline thing, go back to being the one who goes to the gym and,
Mm.
you know, doesn't, is like going back to eating less food and everyone else is hopping on
Yeah.
this trend of like, losing weight and all that stuff. And it's not an easy thing
No.
to do.
No, we're doing the opposite of what the rest of the world is doing, and I like to say, like you said in the beginning, like, I was creating my own version of health, my true health,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and it's hard
And
to
weight
see the
loss
rest
is
of the
not
world
always
doing that.
healthy.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
when
I
we
think
pursue
because weight loss
health,
gets right. Exactly.
so
And as a
many women
dietitian, I
ask
try to
me,
push
"Well,"
that.
yeah, yeah, "If can I pursue weight loss again?" And I like
Yeah.
to frame it as, like, if you continue to pursue health, meaning keeping your period, having a good relationship with food, good mental health, nervous system regulation, a balanced, place with exercise and so forth, like your body is going to do exactly what it needs to do. And,
Mhm.
but the hard part is like the unknown, the what ifs, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And,
Yep.
can we circle back to just sometimes not knowing that there could be so much beauty in it?
Yep.
But we also
Exactly.
are
Yep.
type A by heart and by trade, or should I say, and how do we, maintain some structure in these uncomfortable moments? Because if it's not getting second periods, third periods, becoming pregnant one day, it could be regulating your nervous system because you want to be a better mom, or a more connected version to your partner. So there's always going to be something, right? But I think just recognizing that there is something, and already, Sarah, because we've worked together for some time, that you're able to recognize and you're able to start replacing some language and some thought of being like, well, you know, I know I could do this, but I also can't unsee all of the amazing progress and all the things I've already accomplished. So
Yeah.
I think giving up on continuing period recovery would be harder for you than actually continue to pursue your true authentic version of health. And just to know, like, the proof is in the pudding. Look how much life has already changed for you. Look how much more connected you are. And I want to say you were connected even before we met, because your intuition of being like, "Yeah, I don't know about this pill thing. I might need to come off." We put a lot of weight in other people and validation and so forth, but
Mhm.
just the fact that you were like, "Nah, I think, like, something's up here," like, that already.
Yeah.
And now you have just built on the intuition. So, I think you know exactly what you need to do, and I look forward to having you back at some point, and I'm gonna be doing eventually a series of, like, where are they at now?
Yeah,
And
that's great.
so we'll bring you back. Let me see if I have any more questions for you, Sarah. Let's see here. I think, yeah, I didn't even look at any of my questions, but I want to know what tips or words you gave out some words of encouragement, especially to the woman out there that's like, oh, I feel like life is fine and I don't need to like do this period recovery thing. But what tips or words of encouragement would you give to the woman who's attempting period recovery on her own and she's not to where she wants to be yet?
Yeah, I especially because I think, again, before August when I kind of, like, made the decision and put the payment down, that summer leading up to it, I was already kind of doing things on my own. I think just being in the group setting is really helpful because you get that validation, or you can say like, "Hey, like I went out to a cafe today and that I got myself like a breakfast sandwich and a coffee." When you usually just get yourself a coffee, right? I was never the type to let
Mhm.
myself also get the breakfast sandwich. Being able to do that and then go in the group and share that as a win with people who understand exactly how big that is and what that feels like.
Yeah.
Whereas, like for most people, that they're like, Okay, you got a breakfast sandwich? Cool." Like to be able to go to the group of women who know exactly what that means is really, really, really helpful because it just makes you feel like, okay, like I am doing the right thing. And there are other people who get how hard this is and they understand the ups and the downs of it and that it's fun, but also not fun. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, being in a group setting is really helpful, and the weight gain, yeah, it will probably come. I think when I got those first 2 periods, I was honestly surprised because I was like, I thought I was gonna have to gain more weight. I was like, I didn't
Mm,
really gain that much weight yet. So this is kinda cool, right? And now I'm in this uncomfortable place of like, okay, my my body's not quite where it wants to be yet, and now
mm,
it's starting to get that way. And what people say about buying clothes that fit you is very true. I've had to in the last month, I've had so many, like, jeans and pairs of pants that I'm like, "These fit me 3 months ago, 2 months ago, they don't fit me now." Like, stop trying to wear them. It really makes you feel very uncomfortable. Like, just buy clothes that are, like, a size up. Even if you're like, "I've never worn this size before. I've always been this smaller size." Like, you can let go of that version of yourself.
yeah,
Um,
it's
yeah,
okay. We can't let
yeah,
that arbitrary number dictate our worth
yeah, and it's
because
it's
at the
hard
end of
when,
the
like, your whole life you've been always a size
yes,
extra small or a size small or a 0 or a 2, and now, like, a 2 doesn't fit you anymore. It's like, okay, but also, like, I'm literally growing into the next part of my life and the next version of myself, so, like,
yeah,
so what if that doesn't fit me? So, yeah, if you're doing it on your own and you're really struggling with those things, like, feeling like you're kind of isolated and
mhm,
struggling with the weight gain piece of it, I would say, joining any kind of, I mean, Cynthia's program, but, like, having any kind of real structured support is very helpful for when you feel like, okay, well, I've kind of done what I think I'm supposed to do and nothing's happened yet. It's like you're probably missing a few things, right? Cynthia gives like not only like just strict educational stuff about like why having a period is so important, like what the different cycles mean and all that stuff, but like how to actually build a meal and like what a day of eating should actually look like so that you're not guessing. And again, I'm a dietitian myself. I kind of knew these things, but to have guidance and support, right? Like
yeah,
being an athlete, I kind of need someone to just tell me like, "Hey, this is
mhm,
what you need to do." um,
yeah.
just to like hold you accountable and to be like, "No, like this is what you actually need to do." It's really a helpful thing to have.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that, Sarah. And it's just sometimes it's a little bit of like knowing what to do, but feeling co-regulated along the way to make that hard thing feel a little bit more safe because unfortunately our bodies look at change as like fear, bad, like
Yeah.
all the things our body craves the familiar.
Yeah.
And to be able to have maybe a familiar face or a familiar place to go to feel heard,
Mhm.
seen, like that's a game changer for
Yeah.
any hardship that you're going through. Like
Yeah.
anything I like have an issue with in my life, I'm like, I gotta find a coach. I gotta
Yeah,
find a coach,
yeah, and also
you
be able to
know?
celebrate, like, the win like, when another girl in the like, gets her
Yes.
period back and we're all like, "Yes!" Like, it's genuinely, like, we're all so happy for each other because we know it's a shared, we know we're doing it together, and we know we get to chime in and see what all the other girls are struggling with and, like, cheer each other on and to see someone, kind of realize and see that things are beautiful, and when someone gets their period back, it's like it's really exciting for all of us. So that's also a really cool thing to get to be a part of. Like, I've been out of the group for a few months now and I'm like, oh, how are the other girls doing? Like I want to
I
know.
know. I
So
know. I wish we could all stay together forever, and maybe one day I'll figure out how to do that. And Sarah, I appreciate you sharing that. And I think, and I'm not just saying this to say it because this is what I do, but like being in a community, because I'm in community for other things, for business stuff. Um, Being in community is just so i- it helps you become so much of a more connected version to yourself and help you peel back those layers of whether it's too much type A-ness, perfectionist, questioning like how much food we should be eating or not eating for period recovery and beyond. It's just, yeah, it is
yeah.
a complete game changer.
Yeah.
So
And I'll also just
um
tack on really quickly. I mean, you've inspired
yeah.
me like as a dietitian. Not only have I learned a lot from you about just like specific nutrition things about, other clients who maybe are struggling with food and exercise and ways to phrase certain things, right? The way that you work with your clients and the material that you develop for us, but also just like the work that you do of like actually informing women of like how important it is to have a healthy regular period, like not just for enjoying life, right? But like actually
Mhm.
for your health, right? Like as a healthcare
Yes.
provider, like talking about the information that doctors just jump over. So like so many
Mm,
doctors will say, "Oh, you look great. Like you're not over like, don't gain any
Keep
weight,
doing what
and
you're
meanwhile, they
doing.
don't know that they're maybe feeding, like, disordered eating or an
Oh,
eating
I
disorder,
know.
and they're praising you for, "Oh, like, you eat so healthy, you haven't like, don't let yourself gain any more weight." Like, there are more doctors that need to know that, like, that language can be very, very, very harmful, and as a dietitian,
Yes.
like, I love the work that you're doing and, like, really changing lives, like, women who thought they would never be able to get pregnant, getting pregnant
Mm,
because of the work that you do with them and just, like, helping women realize that, like, life doesn't have to just be food and exercise, and there is so much more to health than just being in the smallest body that you can be in. It's about, like, actually getting the nutrients that you need to be healthy because the nutrients in our food, they
yeah.
do really cool things for our body. So the work that you do is, like, amazing, and I really wish more people, more women, and everyone in general, but specifically women, just knew, like, how important it is to have a healthy cycle, and that's your job. You're sharing that with
Yes.
as many women who are willing to listen, and I think that's
Yes.
amazing.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I just want to say I appreciate you sharing that. And just I get to pinch myself each day. I get to do what I do because let me tell you, through the hardships of me losing my period and never thinking I was going to become a mom, never in a million years did I think like this would be one of the potential outcomes of this really hard thing I had to do. So you
Yeah.
just never know how beautiful life could turn out. And if you trust that it will turn out beautifully and just have that language change of like everything will work out. It will. It truly will. Of course, we have to take aligned action. We have to get enough nutrients and rest and like all the things, but we also need that language change and that inner self dialogue work. So Sarah, I thank you for sharing that and giving all the points and all the hope. I know how many women will connect with this. And guess what? You are now a dietitian that is spreading hope and being able to share the truth of women just sometimes being kind of pushed under the rug with really really important health issues. So thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.